You've been a computer instructor for around what, 35 years?
Yeah, believe it or not, I don't know where the time went, but yes, I started in 1988.
Oh wow. Like I
Yeah.
know like back then there weren't a lot of black folks in tech. So what pushed you in that direction?
Oh, that's a good question. No, I always had like interest in computers, even in college before really PCs became popular. And I was always trying to start different businesses. The French introduced me. I had a janitorial service, and I was looking for a computer or something to help me manage that. A friend introduced me to a Macintosh computer in the fall of '87, and I immediately, I knew I needed to get into this. And so I started a computer training service in January of 1988. And I tell people I had two problems. One, I couldn't afford a computer at that time, and I didn't know how to use one really, but uh, but I could afford the books. And so I literally would get the books and read the books on how the software worked, how this all worked. And I started teaching people how to use the software on their computer. That's how I learned. Then it got to the point where uh, back then the software was coming out and no one knew how to use it. So I started providing training for companies. Got in with the military. We did one training job with NASA, literally trained one secretary for one day. But I went to the Army and said, "Hey, we just did a training job for NASA," and they started giving me lots of folks every 3 months or so. They'd call me back continuously. Fast forward after a couple of years, it grew to the point where I was had to hire other instructors. We were training people in 8 states, 30 cities throughout 8 states, how to use software of all types that was coming out from Microsoft Word, Excel, Photoshop, Illustrator, you name it, FileMaker, PowerPoint. All the software was coming out at that time, and no one knew how to use anything. So that's kind of how I got started. Started specializing in database development with FileMaker Pro in the year 2000. I could see a change in the market. Classes were being offered in colleges, and people were catching on. So also you got to the point where you couldn't keep up with everything. You had to specialize in something. At least I did. So I specialized in database development for a couple of reasons. One, discovered I had a knack for it, and the other is that companies kept coming to me asking me to develop databases for them to help them manage their data. And so I did that for about 15 years until 2015. And then I started thinking about what did I really want to do. I was always helping other companies with their data. And that's why I created a platform called Every Dot Black, where we inspire entrepreneurs to use technology and teach them how to use technology in their businesses. Um, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Joel Dudley Sr. of Dudley Hair Care Products, who just passed away a few weeks ago.
No, not too familiar with them. You mind giving us a little bit of background?
Sure. Well, oh my gosh, he started out with $10 about 60 years ago in the beauty care industry. And his thing, well, actually, he was mentored by another black entrepreneur out of Chicago by the name of S.B. Fuller. And Fuller started out with literally with $25 and created a business bringing in over 18 million during the 1940s and 50s. And he mentored Joe Dudley. So when Fuller passed away, Joe Dudley continued those meetings, and Dudley built his own empire, bringing in over 35 million a year. Had literally hundreds of employees with Dudley Hair Care Products. And like you, about 10 years ago, I wasn't familiar with it. But if you ask any of the ladies, ask my sister, she's like, "Oh yeah, Dudley Hair Care Products." They all know because that's what the beauticians were using. But anyway, he passed away a few weeks ago. But his thing was, we need to promote self-reliance. We need to be our own entrepreneurs. You need to have own businesses. And so it just kind of made sense to me to combine teaching people how to use technology, my background, with entrepreneurship, which is what he mentored to me for the last 10 years before he passed away. And not only me, but thousands of others as well that he's also mentored. In fact, when he passed away, just to give you an idea of the impact he had, if you look at the Wall Street Journal, there was a page dedicated to him in the Wall Street Journal after his passing that came out about a week ago. Um, he was on the CBS Morning News. They mentioned his death. A lot of people really hadn't heard about this entrepreneur, kind of, unknown to many of us, but he was a giant. So, and he mentored literally thousands of people about entrepreneurship. And he just happened to have lived about an hour away from me. So I was able to go to his home, literally go to his home probably 100 times over the last 10 years to meet with him and study about entrepreneurship and becoming entrepreneurs. And so that's what we do now with Every Black. We help entrepreneurs promote their business. We help them promote their business. We help them learn how to use technology in their businesses. And when I say technology, I mean just software packages such as like Zoom or HubSpot for keeping track of your contacts, how to create your own commercials with a program called Kapwing.com. Um, just basic software packages to help them become more proficient and efficient. And now the big thing, as you know, is ChatGPT and artificial intelligence and Gemini. I mean, these are things that I believe we all need to be aware of. These are game changers. And like I said, I've been doing this for 35 plus years. And then the only thing I can relate it to is I remember back early in the early 90s, it was a revolution. People were just trying to figure out how to use computers in their businesses. And now I'm seeing that same activity with artificial intelligence and ChatGPT and some of these other applications that are coming out. We've got to, it's not going to go away. We got to learn about it to our benefit, because literally people are literally losing jobs if they're not aware. It's going to affect you. So we want to be ahead of the curve and not behind it and wonder why. Um, just a few days ago, I saw where Tyler Perry, he has a filmmaking studio in Atlanta, and he was about to invest $800 million into developing sets for his movies. And he said once he was aware of what artificial intelligence can do, he's paused that uh, investment because he wants to see, he can create these same sets for his movies using artificial intelligence. Well, if you're the carpenter or the plumber or whoever that was going to build that set, your business is put on pause and you may not even know why. So that's why it's important to all of us that we really need to learn about this and get ahead of the curve. So I'm doing a lot of talking here, so just interrupt me if you had any questions or comments. So
Yeah, so I know like the tech industry is like really unstable now, and so I agree with you about the point about entrepreneurship. Like you have to have something of your own going, because otherwise, how can you even have to find a house if you don't know where your next paycheck is coming from? So
that's right.
how has the industry morphed from when you first started to now? Is it like more turbulent or?
Yeah, well, I would say that the pace of has accelerated. What I mean by that is when I first got into, I mean, I literally would know maybe a dozen programs inside and out because they weren't that sophisticated, right? But every year there's a new version, and every year there's a new software, new applications, and it's just only accelerated. Now I tell people, like I was blessed to get in and build a solid foundation growing up with it for the most part. I mean, I'm older, but I'm young enough to gotten in early. And for people now coming on to the scene, I can imagine it's probably very mystifying to see all of all this stuff. They don't know where to start, basically. Um, so yes, it's definitely gotten more sophisticated, more complex, but we still have to not be afraid of it. We still need to, and I tell people, no one knows everything. Find what it is that you need. Find what you need to do what you need to do, and work on that. Or how can you become more efficient in the things that you need for your particular endeavors, whether it's business, career, whatever, and get good at that, because no one knows it all. It's too much stuff out there now these days.
So
So
I know like kind of up and quit their pursue the route. So how can they sort of transition into that while also utilizing like modern technology?
Well, that's one of the reasons we started Every Dot Black too. When I say Every Dot Black, there's no .com, no .net. We say slogan is "Dot Black is the new .com." So it's every dot black. That's the website. But one of the things we do is we meet each week to support entrepreneurs or those thinking about becoming entrepreneurs. We meet every week at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and some of our members have been in business for 30, 40, 50 years. Some of them are still on the job and they're just thinking about it, and everything in between. So, what we try to do is we bring on speakers. Sometimes we bring on speakers that offer information about expertise on a certain topic, like branding or insurance or AI, whatever the topic might be. But then sometimes we just bring on speakers that can share their story, how they got started. And sometimes that alone is inspiring to someone that's thinking about it. Because if Joe Smith can do it, then maybe, I can do it too. And then what hurdles that you have to overcome that maybe I can avoid those same pitfalls if I learn lessons from the things that you did or not did uh, to develop those businesses. And you'll find that most people will be more than willing to share their story and their expertise if you just ask them. Most people will be willing to help. Invite if you want to become something, a particular have a particular business or a career, find someone that's already doing it, invite them to lunch, and just pick their brain for it. Most people will be glad to help you do that. So, and we do it virtually every Monday night. Because it's virtual, we're literally able to bring in speakers from around the world. We're able to bring in an audience from around the world. And so, yeah, we just do that every Monday night, and it's no cost. Now, if you actually join Every Dot Black, then there's a cost, but to come to the meetings and network, there's no cost whatsoever other than your time. And you'll find that it's very valuable to make that little investment. So,
So I know like a lot of people in the technical industry, they are, I don't want to say socially awkward, but more introverted. Like they would rather just sit in front of a computer, solve the problem. But in terms of entrepreneurship, I know that's like really limiting. Can you speak about the importance of like reaching out, talking to people and networking?
it's vital. They say the average person knows 250 people in their network. So if you want to expand your network, meet two or three, get to know two or three folks, and before you know it, you've expanded your network by thousands. You know, but it also, I say it's vital too that you network because from my own experience, there's been times when I've been focused on a particular project, developing software or developing databases. And again, I use FileMaker as a FileMaker programmer. But sometimes I'd be stuck on one project for 2 or 3 years, and I'm not really engaged in the larger community. And when I come up for breath, I realize, oh, there's new stuff out there I didn't know about. I'm not staying abreast of these things. And so it not only expands your network, but because this, I don't care what technology is now, it's like it's ever changing. In order to be aware of the newest, latest, greatest, you know, you've got to be engaged with others that are also doing it. There's just no other way around it. As long as you want to be in that arena, you've got to uh, be engaged because you're not going to think of everything. It's just not going to happen that way. Someone's going to come around from left field that thinks of something that could completely change what you're doing. But if you're not aware, then you're not aware of those new shortcomings or new things that can help you with your own uh, ventures or whatever it is that you want to do.
So I know recently the NVIDIA CEO, he made a statement that, kids shouldn't learn coding in reference to the disruptive effects of AI. Now, I wouldn't necessarily go that far, but like, what do you kind of see as the future with AI becoming prevalent? Like, what should kids focus on?
Well, I think you still need to learn as much as you can, even the basics of coding, even if AI is able to create it for you. because be times you need that foundation of understanding how it works. In my opinion, not that you have to become a programmer, or maybe that you can't use it to assist you, but if you're not understanding the foundation of it, it's sort of like reading. If you don't understand the alphabet, it's a little hard to read uh, the or create the thesis. You know, you've got to understand the basics. In my opinion, education is not. The more you can gather, the better off I think you'll be in the long run. So, and again, it doesn't mean that you have to be a dedicated programmer, but coder, but you need to understand the basics of it if you're in that or whatever field you're in. You just need to understand the foundation of it.
Absolutely. So, like, what are some of the ways that you teach entrepreneurs to be able to transform their business? Kind of like utilizing these more modern technologies.
Well, like I said, we're always looking to see, well, two things. We we're providing training for software that's already out there, like even simple things like you want a digital business card, Uh, but we're also on the lookout for the new things like the Chat GPT AI. 2 years ago, it wasn't even on our radar, but then a year ago, we realized, hey, this is a big thing. So we're not only doing it, but we've also partnered with Dr. Philippe Shock Matthews out of California and Dr. Joy Davis. Dr. Matthews has done a lot of research on how technology has affected the African American community. And Dr. Davis, she's a professor at St. Louis University, where she's doing the same thing, but how is it affecting education? And then my personal background is as an entrepreneur. So we look at the economics of AI, we look at the social impact, the biases that are built in or not. It depends on your viewpoint, and then also in education. So we're constantly, like anything, you have to constantly evolve, not only in what you do, but also in the things that we're providing training for. And some of the things like that we provide, like I mentioned, HubSpot or Wave, QuickBooks, keeping your books, that type of thing. The software packages, the basic packages that entrepreneurs need, but also some of these newer technologies like AI that are we need to be aware of as well. So we're constantly looking, or if we get a request or a series of requests, like then it'll bring our attention to something, and we'll check it out. We'll see is there a need to look into that further, or maybe offer a session on it as well.
So I know like the technological landscape is quickly evolving, and you constantly have to be learning in order to be competitive. Do you feel like the African American community is prepared for this emerging sort of economy, technological economy?
That's one of the. I'm sorry to say, I think we need to work on that. That's one of the reasons why I created Every Dot Black, is because as I was doing the 35 years of computer training, I wasn't seeing a lot of people of color in my classes, right? And even if we're talking about AI and ChatGPT, typically we are not always at the first ones at the table, but we have to be. We have to start thinking differently about this. In my opinion, that's one of the reasons. That's one of the my why I'm involved in this, is because I want to see our community more engaged. I want to see our community, and because we can do it, it's not a matter of we can or can't. We can do it. I have no doubt about that. But we just have to be aware, and we have to embrace it, not be afraid of it. Um, so yeah, but we have the ability. We just have to have the awareness to get in and do something with it. So yes.
So like, what do you feel are some steps like we can kind of take to help proliferate, technological education in the Black community?
One of the things, a lot of us are on YouTube already. You can just go on YouTube and Google it. In fact, this technology, like I said, is changing so fast. Just go to google.com and look and just type in artificial intelligence and read news articles that are coming up. There's news articles literally every day that something new is happening in this field. So you have to take it upon ourselves. We have to take it upon ourselves to to become dedicated learners, uh, and bring someone along with you. tell that cousin, tell your peers, hey, come to the session. Did you know about this? Just bring someone else along with you in this space, because we've got to continue to get the word out. Uh, but yeah, we have to take it upon ourselves to to uh, to investigate, read about it. And again, you can go on YouTube, you can go on Google, and just Google artificial intelligence, Google ChatGPT, and a ton of things will come up. And there's also a series of seminars, free seminars that are being made available as well. Some will give you a lot of great information, but we have to take that initiative to do something about it.
So I've heard the saying, like, you are your crowd or you are your friends. I know, especially with entrepreneurship in the Black community, it's hard to find a group of people who even have that skill set of entrepreneurship, much less are willing to share the information with you. So say, somebody maybe in their 20s, they want to start their own business. Like, where should they start looking? How do they get into that community where they're getting the support they need?
Well, that's exactly one of the reasons we started Every Dot Black. We support folks, like I say, you don't have to be an entrepreneur. You maybe just had a thought about it, or you just want to find out about it. Then that we have those meetings every Monday night. We actually read about entrepreneurship. Right now, we're reading Think and Grow Rich by Dr. Dennis Kimbrough and Napoleon Hill. We read a few pages each week, and then we discuss it. And then we have guest speakers on, and then we just literally network on Zoom. It's all on Zoom, so it's virtual. But yeah, and if there's a number of different platforms out there. Another one is the happyneighborhoodproject.com. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but they they do some serious networking. That's all they do is networking literally every day of the week. Happy Neighborhood, happyneighborhoodproject.com. And then I think one of the other pages that tells you about all the different meetings that are going on, and you can interact with folks from around the world any day of the week. But yeah.
So, like, what are some of the more prominent tools that you see emerging that people should be aware of? And do you offer training on them?
Sometimes some things come out of left field. Two speakers that come to mind. One is we had a speaker to come to our meeting about automobiles, and he came on about a year ago. He was talking about how technology is changing the automobile industry. Where we're aware that everything's going to electric cars, but he was sharing with us some companies that we have not heard of that are doing some things uh, with automobiles and self-driving cars, just a number of things. That was really interesting. Another one was a young lady. She's I've heard the term digital nomad. She was working in Boston and paying, I forget how much she said, monthly rent to have an apartment in Boston and working there. But she realized she could have a villa in Costa Rica. No, it's Bali, excuse me, a villa in Bali with all the bells and whistles and her own like with maid service and everything, for less than what she was paying for rent and to be in Boston and working. And she works, all of her work is done over the internet so that her location doesn't matter. And she's also partnered up with other people around the world. So when they get a project, they team up together, even though they are not physically in the same location. And she literally goes around the world. She's in different countries at different times of the year, wherever she prefers, wherever she likes to be. I know she says she's in South America sometimes of the year, and she's in, you know, uh, Europe some parts of the year, but she's still working. So that's just two examples of how technology is changing our world. And I mean, that could be some of your listening audience could be out there thinking like, hey, why don't I go to Costa Rica and just work remotely, you know, with what I'm doing? Why do I have to be in Boston or, some of the high priced locations where I can get a lot more bang for my buck in other parts of the world? So,
Yeah,
and see the
I've
world as
actually heard a
well.
lot of people from California moving to Mexico or, just all around the world because, like you mentioned, it's way cheaper and they get better
Hmm.
amenities. Um, like, do you believe that that's going to continue to be a trend, and how do they balance that out versus more of these companies requiring employees to go back to the office?
I think it's going to be more of a trend. I think COVID accelerated I think it was headed that way anyway. But once COVID happened and people um, realized that they could do a lot uh, from a remote location, and COVID also inspired a lot of people to go ahead and start that virtual business of some type or another. So I don't think it's going to go back, and even no, I don't think it's going to go back. I think it's going to continue in the direction that it's been going. And I started to say maybe some jobs where it requires physical labor, but even that I'm seeing being replaced by robots and everything. So yeah, and that again is why we have to be on the cusp of the cutting edge of this if we want to stay ahead of the game. So
So yeah, I know, like, entrepreneurship is kind of a romanticized concept in a lot of people's minds, but what are some of the realities of it that a lot of people aren't, they might not be prepared for, but they should be aware of?
well, it does take a certain mindset. When I tell people, if you're an entrepreneur, there's you and there's God. There's no one to complain to if your check's not right, or there's no, if your insurance, that type of thing. You have to take care of those things yourself. But the core of entrepreneurship is basically the same. And a friend, he explained it to me this way, and it just kind of stuck with me. He says, you take $1 and you buy a pen, an ink pen, and you sell it for $2. You put $1 in your pocket, you take that other dollar and you buy another pen and you sell it again. So you basically find that product or service that you do that you're uniquely fitted, maybe has some advantage, and we all have an advantage in some way or another. We're all better at something than most of our peers are. It's up to you to determine, what am I good at? What comes easy to me that other people are willing to pay for, that maybe be difficult or more time consuming for them. Once you find that, then you offer it at a fair price, and find your unique position, and you get the word out. If you're really good at it, you'll find that people become start coming to you. They say, if you provide excellent service, the world will beat a path to your door, and I found that to be true with the database development that I've done. I've gotten a number of jobs, not because I went out and marketed, but because someone saw some my previous work and they were really impressed, and then they would reach out to me for the next project. So, but I'd say also, just like the technology piece, not to be fearful of it, but if you've had that thought, considered it, then just, I personally would rather try something and fail rather than always wonder, I had that idea, but I didn't actually do anything with it. And then somebody else comes along and does it and makes a success of it. And you think, I thought about that. But the difference is they did something with it and I didn't. So I'd rather personally try something, learn from it. And that really, I don't look at it as a failure. But you learn something either about yourself, maybe it's not for you, but now you know it's not for you. Or maybe you're good at it, better at it than you thought, and you do see a way to make a living at it. So, and you have to have a bit of faith. Joe Dudley, who I mentioned earlier, that passed away, he always says that when you're driving to, let's pick on New York again, if you're driving to New York, you can't see New York, right? But when you're driving, you have faith that you're going to get there. And on the way there, you might run into a detour or an accident. Well, you don't stop and go home. You work around that detour and you continue on until you get there because you have faith that you're going to get to New York or wherever your destination. So the same type of thing. If you have this desire to reach a certain goal, you have to work toward it and not give up if things happen that you don't expect. And life has that way of throwing things in your path that you don't expect. I don't care what it is you want to do. Life's going to bring something to the table that you didn't see coming. But you have to decide, am I going to work around it, through it, or whatever, or I'm just going to give up and not fulfill my destiny or not really find out, is this for me or not?
Absolutely. I
So,
know there's been a lot of layoffs lately. So, like, what advice do you have for people who just recently got laid off, and how do they bounce back?
uh, again, you have to just determine like what's what are my goals? What are my aspirations? What are my what is it that you bring to the table that no one else can, or no one else can do it as well as you can? So I would say you have to kind of and also talk to others. You know, again, the networking thing comes into play. Talk to others to see, how do other people see you? You know, how do other people see what you do, bring to the table? Sometimes they see value in you that you don't. I have a cousin, and uh, she's a great event planner. She plans a reunion, family reunion. She does a great job. And we were telling her, you know, Stephanie, you need to really think about doing that. But she is intimidated, or for whatever reason, she's a little shy about doing it. But I know if she ever did make that decision, she'd be great at it. So,
Yeah, I feel like many of us have a lot of talents, but for some reason we're intimidated about just starting a business and reaching out to clients. So I know that's the big part of a lot of businesses is procuring clients. So what is some advice you could give in regards to someone who's just started their business and they're looking to get some of their first clients?
well, you just have to start. There's a video on YouTube that I think is great. It's called the Green Dot Theory. And really, entrepreneurship is a journey. So the longer you delay in starting, the longer you delay in getting there. It's a learning process. But the Green Dot Theory, if you Google it, this guy talks about how he started his business. Within 6 months, he realized he didn't know what he was doing so much, but he discovered something else along the way. And when they implemented that new thing that they discovered, then it helped business. And then they kept going and they discovered something else. The point is, if he had never started, he would have never discovered those things along the way that helped him improve his business and finally became profitable and successful. So the idea is that you have to start. It's a learning uh, experience. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to happen overnight. But if you stick with it, whatever it is that you're doing, it will happen. So,
Absolutely. I think
uh,
that's all the questions I had. Was there anything you wanted to share? Any topics you wanted to bring up to the audience?
no, I think I've brought up the things that I would just encourage people not to be afraid of technology or entrepreneurship. Visit us at Every Dot Black. Come to our meetings. Check us out. Like there's no cost to it. Want to thank you also for giving me the opportunity to share this information with your audience. And I hope someone takes us up on it and uh, and moves on with their lives. And you know, that's even though we're as entrepreneurs we're in it to make money. The reason behind it is I want to be able to help others realize their goals, because again, that's another thing too. Whatever business you have to be passionate about it, because if you're not, if you're just in it for money, it's not going to sustain you when times are tough. But if you're in it to because you have a why do I want to do this? What's my passion about this? Then that'll get you through it.
Absolutely. I definitely appreciate you for stopping by the show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll catch y'all next time. All right.
Well, thank you
You
so
have a
much
good one.
again.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming to the show.
Yep, sure thing.